So, The Last of Us 2 finally got released. I'm enjoying the game. I don't see all the controversy that everyone else is seeing in it. I think it's a totally fleshed out, well done title. That being said, I do have a small gripe with the story, and that's the fact that Naughty Dog decided to abuse their workers by initiating a crunch period to finish the game. I mean, the game was delayed, what, twice? And then they had a whole period where they weren't releasing it right away because of the coronavirus. I don't understand why you needed to abuse your workers to get that done. Especially since Naughty Dog is one of the good companies that I've grown to really enjoy, and that kind of pisses me off that they had to do that. I'm wondering what the hell happened there. Also, at a later date, we're going to be doing a video on just The Last of Us 2 and the controversy surrounding it, because it's a whole thing, and I feel like it's worth talking about. But today we're talking about historical accuracy and if it's important in gaming, because the Assassin's Creed Valhalla game is coming out, and apparently that conversation needs to be had again. So let's do that. Does historical accuracy in games matter? Or, more to the question, does it matter that video games don't always care about historical accuracy? How much historical accuracy is exactly acceptable? Questions that, frankly, I am so very tired of hearing. Questions that are honestly only seemingly brought up when someone on the internets wants to find a fake reason to be mad about something, anything really, but doesn't have the stones to just be honest about their gripes. They usually just want a reason other than the real reason they're mad to focus on, instead of being candid about their real reasons for acting like babies in comment sections. I figured it would be important to actually discuss if historical accuracy is necessary, because history is interesting. That's just a fact. It's chock full of fascinating tidbits that just make history interesting. But is it really more interesting than an assassin pirate grappling with the new unwanted control of a foreign government? A game where you need to uncover the mystery of an ancient alien civilization that left behind powerful, destructive technology that led to a 1,000-year war between assassins and the freaking Knights Templar, which, by the way, is still going on in modern times. Oh, and by the way, there's some super interesting characters, and they have some really insanely good character development along the way that makes the game just so much better. I would argue Assassin's Creed is more interesting than the actual history of pirates. It's why fantasy and science fiction stories are made, because sometimes what people can imagine can be more interesting than actual history. Let's look at a different game, for example. One of my favorite all-time games, Wolfenstein. Are we seriously going to argue Wolfenstein would be better if the zombie Nazis and guns that fire lightning and the final boss being Mecha Hitler weren't included? The thing that makes Wolfenstein interesting and good? The latest iteration of Wolfenstein completely rewrites modern history to include fire-breathing robot dogs and an America run by Nazis. I don't know about you guys, but that seems far more interesting than our current life full of respiratory pandemics, murder hornets, and our utter lack of governmental leadership. I'm not here saying historical accuracy doesn't have a place. I'm just saying historical accuracy in games is most effective when it's in the background. Think Leonardo da Vinci in Assassin's Creed, or real-life events like World War I. Some of the best historical games I've played in the past decade have included some semblance of real-life history, but aren't completely engrossed in it. One of my personal favorite pastimes as a teen was playing war games. I ate up all the Medal of Honor titles I could get my hands on. My favorite one of those Medal of Honor titles being Rising Sun. Those games aren't even accurate. They tell a wholly fictional story, and you play a totally fictional character. They accent the real-life events of World War II and the war in the Pacific with fictional additions that make it far more interesting. Let's be real about this. Would we even want games to be historically accurate? Call of Duty Black Ops isn't historically accurate. Modern-day Call of Duty games even include zombies. Zombies never happened historically. And I don't know, I've been to history class and I'm pretty sure JFK never fought zombies with Richard Nixon, Robert McNamara, and let's check the notes here. Yes, Fidel Castro.
As I like to think, in the long history of the world, that there are only a few generations.
Sounds like someone breaking in!
It's just a storm, Dick. Sit down.
Oh my God!
Best Richard Nixon acting ever. I also don't want to have to point out that this guy named Alex Mason never shot JFK. That's literally a point in Black Ops. That didn't happen. So, where's the outrage over that? Where's the outrage over that historical inaccuracy? One of the biggest franchises in the world, Fallout, famously lampoons American history and completely rewrites hundreds of years of US history following World War II. It's a world where instead of making electronics smaller, mankind made nuclear power smaller. Fallout doesn't just give the middle finger to historical accuracy, it outright takes its fictional story and completely rewrites our future as well. Mirelurks? Robots with fucking flamethrowers, guns that shoot freaking plasma, and super mutants, giant, mutated humanoids who are yellow. In fact, it appears the real issue isn't historical accuracy at all, because it's entirely hilarious how historical accuracy only gets brought up in certain situations. Let's all not forget the time the internet got mad about Battlefield 1's inclusion of African American soldiers, because that was apparently historically inaccurate, even though, plot twist, it wasn't at all. Battlefield 1 featured a storyline about the Harlem Hellfighters, a very historically accurate division of the United States military during World War I. Even people who knew it was historically accurate to include them in World War I still had an issue with it because apparently it was just SJW propaganda. So funny how, when you can't claim historical inaccuracy as an argument, it's magically, oh, SJW's trying to ruin games. So on one hand, historical accuracy is super important and is like totally the reason for the outrage, and also not important and people were actually just mad because some black people were included in the game. Why does Fallout's historical inaccuracies not matter, but Battlefield 1's accurate history of the Harlem Hellfighters anger people? When looking at the whole picture, none of these arguments actually make any goddamn sense. While we're talking about Assassin's Creed, let's point out the pathetic-ass controversy surrounding Assassin's Creed Valhalla right now, at this moment. Women! There are women in the game. That's apparently still controversial for some dumb reason. There's currently a discussion if there were female Vikings, which, if you're keeping count, is a pretty shallow reason to not like an Assassin's Creed game. The controversy isn't that Assassin's Creed should have ended 8 fucking years ago, it's that the newest iteration includes some boobed humans. And so what? There's a historical precedent to suggest women Vikings did in fact exist. Even if you take the position that shield maidens aren't actually confirmed, you still have to accept the fact that it was part of their mythology. There are plenty of female gods that were also warriors, and shield maidens were absolutely part of Viking culture. Does that not count in terms of history? Does fictional mythological history not matter anymore? If your answer is no, it doesn't matter, I suggest you never buy a future installment of God of War because those aren't even close to being historically accurate. Funny how no one complains about those historical inaccuracies. You better not play Smite ever again because there's never been a historical mythological event where Zeus fights Cthulhu, huh? Let's talk about that historical inaccuracy. Also, while we're at it, what about games that take place far into the future? Does everybody remember the freakout over Horizon Zero Dawn? Remember when people threw a fit about the female protagonist? Remember when they metabombed it for simply having a female protagonist? What was the issue there? Couldn't have been historical accuracy, that's set in the future. There's no history to actually mess the fuck up. It's just really hilarious to me that in Assassin's Creed Valhalla and Battlefield 5, it was super offensive to have female leads in those because of the historical inaccuracy, but when it's Horizon Zero Dawn, the only problem is that there's just a female protagonist. To me, it just appears that historical accuracy is just a crutch argument people use because they don't want to outwardly admit the issues they have with gaming is that it's simply more inclusive. Cyberpunk has been in constant controversy over its inclusion of non-binary gender options in a freaking universe where humans augmenting themselves and changing their bodies with technology is the norm. Apparently, that's also wrong. However, that can't be historically inaccurate because that's set in the future as well. But now that you can't claim historical inaccuracy as an issue with Cyberpunk, people are just automatically telling the truth that they just don't like transgender people and it deeply offends them that there are options to have them. Historical accuracy is such a pathetic excuse, especially since every game that includes some semblance of history is incredibly honest about the fact they're not trying to make a video game that's historically accurate. If a video game company was like the most historically accurate game ever made and then completely got it wrong, yeah, okay, I could see that, but literally no game company has ever done that. And honestly, if a historically accurate game is what you're looking for, you're going to be sorely disappointed because, to my knowledge, there is not one historically accurate game out there. There is always going to be one portion of that game that is always going to be inaccurate as it pertains to history. There is no such thing as a historically accurate video game. They don't exist. I just want people to stop going online and throwing a hissy fit about it. I'm sick of hearing about historical accuracy. I'm so sick of it. It's so useless and counterproductive. If you don't want to play a game, just don't buy it, okay? Don't buy it if it bugs you. If it's something that you are morally opposed to, don't spend the money on it. You don't need to go online and throw a big hissy fit about it. But also, don't fucking limit my ability to enjoy something because you don't like it. Especially since the people who are complaining about inclusiveness in games only care about historical accuracy sometimes anyway. My name's BlastBunny. I hope you guys have a good day.